Hello guys. It's Jackie Felix here, and today I want to make a podcast kind of format video, and I want to talk about, the state of Sage, and I brought with me, along with me, Mizzop and FeednCry, and both of them are console players, and the reason why I brought their opinion was I've heard that on console, Sage is a bigger issue than even on PC. So I'll just give some time quickly for Mizzop and FeednCry to introduce themselves.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mizzop. So I've been playing on console pretty much since release. I started like a month after release. I never played on PC. One of my friends just told me about the game and I thought it was pretty cool, so I started playing. Um, but I spent pretty much all of last year sieging while we had somewhat siege content. It's kind of died down a little bit. So for like the past 4 or 5 months, I've just been node warring. But I think that over the past like month since Sages came out, it's just kind of been killing the scene. Like, a lot of people just stopped node warring. The guild I was in just kind of died.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah. So just to reiterate, what's the guild you're in currently, Mizzop?
I currently joined back to the Siege guild that I was in, which is Panic.
Yep.
So right now I'm in Panic.
Uh,
and my name's FeednCry. Pretty much been playing since console release. I played a little bit on PC. I've been playing. I played since like a week before the game launched. The guild I'm in is Electric. We did some sieges. We're pretty much node warring right now. Um, the scene's pretty much died down because Sage has been insta killing everyone for the most part. It's been like killing barricades, two killing barricades. Most of siege guilds have dropped down to T1s. T1s aren't capped, so for the most part, you just have like 300 AP stages, insta killing everything for the most part.
okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks for introducing to. So on console, I'm aware that I think they capped pen armor Caphras to Caphras level 5. So most people don't have that much DP, and but yet you have people running around with like over 300 AP. I think that also makes the issue a lot worse on console. And the other thing I heard about is like there's very low FPS compared to PC on console as well. So I just want to ask you guys, um, talk a little bit about your own personal experience with Sage on console, and why you think it's like so oppressive and so broken. So
I think that, I mean, like you touched upon, the main thing is just the weird gear spot that we're in, where like people have 10 black stars and 309 AP, but then people are running around with like 320, 330 DP and just getting destroyed. I think that the scaling on the class is just a little bit too overtuned because like people say, oh, we'll just look at the mini map, but then you look at the mini map, and then when they come out of their iframe, they just destroy you. So it doesn't really matter. And I think that because of the amount of damage that they do, like in large scale, it's just kind of hard to even challenge them because there's so much other stuff going on. You have suck wizards teleporting around, you have suck rangers standing on top of buildings shooting at you, and there's just a lot going on. So when a class is able to just teleport in and, and destroy people, it's just a little bit oppressive. I mean, obviously, like Suck Wizard kind of did the same thing, but the difference is you could at least like visually see them.
yep.
And with the amount of frames that we have, especially like people playing on like the older consoles, it's really hard to punish them in their little bit of time that they're unprotected because I mean we just don't have the frames. Like by the time you try to use your skill to punish them, they're just already iframing out. And
Yeah. So pretty.
I think that them being able to cast through like barricades and stuff is just really ridiculous. I saw that video that you posted last night with the sage just sitting there casting through the siege
Yep.
wall,
Yep.
just destroying people.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much like soft cap DP for console with AP. So I'm like around 350 DP, and I'm still getting like too skilled by anyone who's around 290 to 300. For it's not really a huge problem on console when it comes to 1v1, although sometimes when you get hit with abilities like your frames drop, so you pretty much freeze, and when you come back you're dead. But like when it comes to when you get like a sage and like something else, or you get like a sage and like anything else, like that's when it becomes a problem, because like you're trying to fight one person and then all of a sudden you're getting like one or two skilled in the back. The abilities are pretty much the size of a football field. It's like it hits barricades, it'll hit players, it's your base, and pretty much it's like one skill is like hitting everything in the area, hitting like five different people and like insta killing those people. So like if you're around 300 DP on console, like you can't really even play in Node Wars. And then we have like siege guilds sending down players to like Merc and T1 guilds with like no caps. So you have like people who are just trying to get into the Node War scene, trying to play around with their friends and stuff like that, basically just getting one skilled by like siege players. So there isn't really room for like growth for people like that.
Yep. So why isn't there a cap on tier ones on console?
We've been asking for it, but uh, they haven't really given us a legitimate reason for why there
Uh,
aren't caps. So like it's literally like 540 players fighting like
yeah.
620, 630,
That's
640 gear score players, and it's like it's just not fun for anyone. They're getting farmed inside their base, like one tapped over and over again.
yeah.
There isn't really much they can do.
There's a lot of stuff I don't understand about console. One of them, one of them is capping the Caphras, and the other one is like you mentioned tier one. So like definition of tier one is for players who don't have that much gear to like go into and experience Node Wars. But I guess that's a separate topic. But yeah, like pretty much your experiences on console, it's pretty much my same experience on PC. Like I have almost 400 DP and I still get 1 to 2 shot by Sages to a and over 300 AP. But yeah, obviously the issue on console is like a lot worse and to a more extreme degree because of the low DP that people have. So the like the freeze and some other issues prevalent with console. Okay, so on to the next point, which is so you guys know or have experienced like seeing a lot of people quitting the game due to Sage. I don't know if you guys have talked to any of those players. Like, what do you think is the main reason they're quitting the game over the state of even the state of not you could not even just be Sage. It could be the state of like large scale PvP. Like, what's the primary reason? They're like
Well,
stop. Yep.
I think a lot of people were already quitting the game for various reasons. I mean, the new console not being like super readily available is an issue because basically we have like half the community on the new consoles and half the community on the old consoles. So, I mean, if you're on the old consoles, like large scales barely playable at times. Whereas like on the new consoles, it's choppy, but you're at least able to play the game. So that's been one big reason. But on top of that, I think once they came out with Black Star and distos and everything, and people started getting like a ridiculous amount of AP, it kind of it made it so that anyone who's not super geared is just like unable to trade with anybody.
Yeah.
and then it got to the point like our scene was kind of dying, but once Sage came out, I feel like a lot of guilds just kind of gave up
Yeah.
because the I mean the top frags in every guild now is just sages. Like the top like 10 people, 8 of them are sages, and then you might have like a suck wizard in there and one other class. And like the the thing that's crazy to me is just the KD of these people.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
people are going like 96 and 10. Like before they would go like 96 and 24, and like that's kind of understandable, but like the class just doesn't die because you don't get punished for anything.
Yeah. And
And
on that point, it's kind of like a domino effect, right? Because you have to play Sage. Your guild has to play Sage because of how broken, how OP the class is. So then the amount of Sages, just everyone's just rerolling to Sage, tagging Sage, and it's just the problem becomes ever more evident, right?
yeah, and I actually had in my last guild that I was in, Denial, we had an issue where we had too many sages, and it was like because this was just in like 30-man node wars, and it was hard to fight as a Zerg because everyone's just in iframes everywhere, and it's just like basically it just turned into an RBF of people just getting kills over and over, and we just stalemated over and over because I mean the class is super strong, but at the same time it's hard to be organized when your entire guild is just iframing all over the place.
Yeah, and even then, and like as a GM, it's kind of just hard to motivate your guys to come to Node War to just like get if they're not a sage to get one shot by sages over and over again. It's like why are you gonna get up and come to Node War to go like 2 and 15 just because like they're throwing out abilities, insta killing you, you're respawning up. So it's just a frustration like amongst the community and amongst like the people, and like everyone has attack sage. It's like you'll be winning a GVG or you'll be winning a Node War, and then like all of a sudden 5 or 6 extra sages pop up, and then like no one's really having fun with that. It's like the enjoyment factor just isn't really there right now. Like you just want to go Node War and play with your friends, but like you literally have to be on Sage because like we're just getting one shot, and in super armors we're getting one tapped like through forward guard, and like just the DP aspect isn't there, and we just don't have the ability to fight the class like that.
Yeah, I agree. So, like one of the issues I have, big issue I have the game currently, and all the changes they've been making over the past couple of months is they keep introducing items, abilities, classes that reduce the amount of time to kill. And I don't know when I see Node Wars, like from when BDO was released or during the initial 1 or 2 years it was released, people were tanky. People could survive or even 20 30 seconds and sit in a blob and actually fight it out. And I don't know what your personal opinion is, like if maybe you can stay alive longer and play more of your class in large scale, maybe that could be more fun and enjoyable. But yeah, like what's your opinions on that, like the time to kill thing?
Yeah, I
It would
think
definitely.
that the time to kill has definitely gotten ridiculous. It was decent on console for a while because people didn't have gear. There was obviously some super ridiculous time to kills early on, like when Awakening first came out, and we had like Awakening Witch and Wizard and Awakening Striker. They had a super ridiculous time to kill because people were in like Tri Granil. But as things went on, it was actually I think it was in a good spot. And then we got that class modifier change, and I think after that the time to kill has just gotten super ridiculous along with like the new skill add-ons. Those two things, and then just us not having access to DP has just made the game like everybody is a glass cannon. Like even shies are like getting 3 skilled by Sage, so it's like everybody is just dying. Like someone DM'd me the other day and was like, "When do you get tanky with DR armor?" And I was like, "Bro, you don't get tanky in BDO. You
You
just
don't.
kill the other person first."
I can tell you that from personal experience because I've been both, C20 endgame invasion, C20 endgame DR. It doesn't matter in large scale. You are going to die. The only difference time it matters is if you're like a 710 gear score fighting people who are below 600 gear score. Like otherwise, it
Yeah.
just doesn't matter how tanky you are. Um,
Yeah, we've definitely been pining to like try to get like our own like console patches, but pretty much like anything that happens on PC just gets ported on the console, and unfortunately like we have two different like DP metas. So like you can hit 400 DP, but like our average player is like 320, like 310. So like them just introducing classes that just one and two skill people just takes away from the enjoyment, and just have to like literally talk guys into coming in node war weekly is just kind of annoying.
yeah. So yeah, I definitely understand that. All right. So I'm not sure, let's go on to the last point of this podcast. It's about the global lab changes today. I'm not sure if you guys have had a look at them, but we'll be focusing on the succession stage nerfs, I would say. So the first one is that their primed rift chain, which is their iframe ability, teleport ability, is now a super armor on cooldown instead of iframe. So what do you guys think about that?
I think
I
it's a
think
pretty healthy change.
Oh, sorry. Not only that,
As
but when they do Rift Chain, they get 20 DP for
20
2
DP.
seconds and also
Yeah,
30% grab resistance.
I think as someone who plays Suck Witch, it's not gonna be nearly as viable anymore. Just because moving in an SA, you just die because of how much damage is in the game.
Yep.
But I do think that the class will still be usable. I just don't think that you're going to be able to iframe into an entire Zerg of people and then get out. Um, I think it's a healthy change because it'll promote people to actually try out Awakening. Because I think Awakening Sage is super cool, but there was just no reason to play it with how good Suck was. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll see how it affects them, along with being able to see them from the last global labs change. I think that it might ruin the class, but I think that it'll balance it a lot more.
I definitely think it'll help out. Like they'll actually have to think when they're doing things, because when you're sitting in like perma iframe, like you can just pretty much move around freely. But the fact that when it's on cooldown, you're actually in SA, you'll be a little bit more vulnerable to damage. So they won't be just iframing around 60 people like they're a Sork with like wizard
Yeah,
damage. And they'll actually have to like give more thought to the movement aspect of the class.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I always have with class is people say, the highest damaging abilities are unprotected or something. Well, like when a Sage comes out, like the iframe, a Sage comes out iframe, they have a 1 or 2 second SA linger, and then they can cast the skill, which takes like less than half a second if they're not slowed, and then they go straight back in iframe. So I think that, adding this super armor on cooldown effect or Rift Chain is a good change, in my opinion, and it does it will punish sages for like going into a ball of 20 or 30 people and just being a nuisance and iframing around. Not much you can. All right, so for the next change, a cooldown of 17 seconds has been added to the flow finishing touch skill. So, FeednCry, I'm not sure if you've played Sage before. Is this a noticeable nerf or is this?
Yeah, so that'll definitely help out because like sometimes when your block is up, like spatial collapse will like on console at least, will break your block and like take 30% of your health. And then like for us, you get the like block stagger animation. So like it's pretty much just a confirm for finishing touch. So now that there's actually a 17-second cooldown for that finishing touch, they won't get that like guaranteed second hit on you. Like if they got the abilities down, you can actually like aggress on them because they won't have that second confirm hit on you. So it's definitely a good change. I don't understand why it didn't have a cooldown on it to begin with, but I'm glad they realized that it actually needed it.
Yeah. So finishing touch flow is the skill after spatial collapse.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
can like it has like a lot of range on it too.
Yeah.
Like you can literally catch somebody from like halfway across the map at that
All
time.
right. Cool. The next one, the conditions for accumulating the effects of the basic attack when interacting with overdrive skill has been changed to be possible only in the following situations. So overdrive is a buff, right? Which it's a 10-minute buff, which can be reduced in cooldown when you use like abilities or skills, right? So it says now it's only possible in these situations, in place attack 2 hits and last hit, forward attack 3 hits and 5 hits, left and right attack 3 hits, and jump attack. So I guess if you have some opinions on this change, FeednCry.
I don't understand why they didn't remove the SA from it, like the 10 or what is it, 10 or 15 seconds of super armor. I don't
Yep.
understand why they left like the 10 or 15 seconds on the super armor. I feel like that's like one of the biggest deals. Like they pop their buff, they have like way too much damage on it, and then they're pretty much just like an SA for 15 seconds. So there's like you pretty much just have to run from it. Like we just turn around and kite them out until it's down. But I mean, like any nerf to the buff will help. It'll definitely assist us, but they definitely need to like reduce the 15 seconds of super armor to like maybe like 5 or 6 seconds or 7 seconds, and that'll help.
Yeah, I think I think the super armor on the on a class that has so much iframes already is kind of dumb. Yeah, definitely. There's my another issue I have with Sage is that you can tag the class or pick up the class, play it for like 30 minutes or an hour, and like that's pretty much it. Like there's the skill ceiling on the class is next to non-existent, right? Like I'm sure like any you can ask any Sage player this, like what I can tell the difference between like a really good Sage player and a fucking like a average or below average Sage player. Like I think the most difficult thing about it is the stamina management, right? Like in even positioning, you have so many iframes that positioning doesn't even matter that much, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's
the
definitely
first week, everyone was top fragging on Sage already.
it's like a
There was
really
not
pick up
much
and play
love.
class. It's like the like easiest pick up and play class I've seen in BDO in like a long time, besides like maybe Suck Nova, where they're just holding block and waiting for Axion to do stuff.
Okay. So last change is the PvP damage of void gateways. Prime void gateways has been reduced by 14%. I think that's when like they shoot out a bunch of lasers in front of them, right?
Yeah, that's the
And
laser ability.
yeah, that's unprotected though, right?
Yeah, it's unprotected and it has like a long
Mm-hmm.
animation.
Okay.
It has like a really long animation
Yeah.
for it.
And prime spatial collapse has been decreased by 18%. Damage PvP. So is that the ability where they can precast like a huge like square AoE and then they come out and just chuck it on the ground? Is that skill? Or?
Yeah, that's it skill where they
Alright, cool.
precast it.
Yeah, so what do you
They
guys
go
think
on smash
of
them.
what do you guys think of these two changes?
I think they're really good changes, especially to spatial collapse. Like that just adds more survivability to it. Definitely gonna have to do some tests to see if 18% is enough. It may or may not be enough depending on the person's AP. But yeah, Void Gateway is kind of dodgeable. It's like unless you just don't flat out don't see it coming. I feel like the ability was like a really avoidable ability, and it definitely leaves an opening for you to kill them. And then like a lot of people don't even cast Void Gateway to begin with. just because it's like a super long animation. Like a lot of people just prefer to wait for like the spatial collapse to come back up and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. So I
I
noticed.
feel like that was
Yeah,
more of
sorry.
like a finishing skill. Like if you knock somebody, you can finish them off with that.
Yeah. Yep. So I noticed that in these changes, they didn't really touch the crazy accuracy, crit, and evasion debuff modifiers on Succession Sage. So I still think the class will hit really hard, but now there's room to punish it when it's moving around in super armor. But yeah, I think these are some good changes. I also noticed, they provide a bunch of buffs to Awakening Sage, so maybe like after these global changes come to live servers, maybe people will be playing Awakening Sage. But
Yeah.
yep,
A lot of people just think Awakening Sage is like clunky and like some of the abilities take too long to cast. So I think even after these changes, people might still be inclined to play Succession. It just depends on how the iframe, like how badly the iframe works after these changes.
yeah. I mean, what this says to me is that people who don't have that much DP on Succession Sage, like looking at PC especially, right? They can't really play Sage anymore because I mean they can, but like if you're like going into a ball and you have like one iframe and then the rest is all super armor, like you're just not gonna survive. Whereas before you can have, players that have over 300 AP and maybe around 320 DP on Sage. Because they have so much iframe and so many so much iframes, they're able to kind of get in and get out and the DP doesn't really matter that much. So I think this change also makes it so that, you don't have which again DP doesn't really matter that much, but like the people who have lower DP values, like this punishes them more for doing reckless or kind of reckless plays, dumb plays, right?
It definitely will help when like they're actually just targetable and taking damage rather than sitting in permanent iframe. And if you don't have the DP to like trade a crowd, like that's the main problem is when someone goes into a ball, like you're taking that damage, but they weren't taking that damage, so they could just like cast their ability and move freely. So it'll definitely help.
Yeah. Yep. Well, okay, so that's pretty much all we wanted to go through today. The podcast. Got to thank FeednCry and Mizzop very much um for spending their time this morning or this afternoon with us. And I don't know if do you guys have any last words you want to say?
Um,
Electric's recruiting. 570 plus on the console. Just hit me up
help
in
us,
game.
PA.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. Um. Well, I thank you guys again, and I hope you guys learned something or useful from this insight from these two, from Mizzop and FeednCry, both of these console players. And yeah, if you guys have any thoughts or opinions, you can leave them in the comment section down below, or send me a DM on Discord. But yeah, apart from that, I'm gonna end it here, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.